Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Tonight on Whiskey Business, we've had her on the podcast before with others, but never a chance to talk to her all by herself. A funny lady, a complicated lady. It's Nicky Winkelman on Whiskey Business. And welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. For years, before I got into radio, before I got into podcasting, I was a stand-up comedian. That's how I made my living, and I enjoyed those years a lot. A lot of great stories, a lot of great memories, and one of my favorite things about those years was the people that I met. Some I stayed in touch with, some have drifted away. But there's a special bond between funny people, and when you meet them, some have an effect on you that sticks with you. And when you do see them after long periods of time, you actually get happy to see them. And tonight on Whiskey Business, Nicky Winkelman would be one of those people. Yes, she would be. Absolutely.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for me to say, and I haven't even started drinking yet. I'm just excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Dino. You're one of those people for me too.
Yeah, I always made the joke a long time ago that you're like a daughter to me.
Yeah.
Because you remind me of my daughter as far as your energy, and if I can say this without sounding, creepish, your beauty. My daughter's a very beautiful girl.
Thank you.
So,
she is. I've seen pictures of her.
Yeah, right? So you kind of remind me of my daughter in a lot of ways. And my daughter has a great sense of humor. I think my daughter could have done stand-up comedy if she wanted to do so. She's got a great stand-up feel to herself. She's got a quick wit, and as do you. And you've been on the podcast before with others.
It was like early 20.
You joined us with the girls when we were locked down for COVID.
Yeah.
We did that. That was a great podcast. We've worked with you on The Premise.
Yes, I did The Premise 3 times.
Yes, yes,
right.
Which we would love to start doing again.
You kind of like the what would you say, the booker? What would you call yourself over there at the?
I was the event coordinator. Was my title, but yes,
nice.
I booked and
Very
hosted.
corporate sounding.
Yes.
It's official.
It's Shadowbox.
It's a nice resume title.
It is. It's nice. And Shadowbox is up and
Thank
running
you for
again.
because you helped a lot booking that stuff for us. Thank you.
And through all of this, at one point you said, and we'll talk about this in just a little bit, you got out.
Yes.
You stopped.
I did.
You put a break on all of it.
I
and
did.
We're going to dig into that a little bit and a lot of other things tonight on Whiskey Business. But thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have my faux daughter on the program.
Right, and we brought it up earlier. Like every once in a while, he calls me the son he never wanted. So this somehow makes us like siblings of some sort.
Yeah.
I feel so honored to be a part of this family.
Yeah, and then there's all weird old Uncle John.
I'm definitely old. And weird.
But he's a good YouTube producer. Like that segue.
Awesome. Yeah.
YouTube with whiskey business.
Let's get to the business. I'll get to the guest bottle, and then we'll get to Nicky.
YouTube Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. Smash that subscribe button and click on the bell. You'll get a notification every time a new Whiskey Business episode is up. If you are listening on your favorite podcasting app, make sure you check that out on YouTube. If you're watching us, thank you very much. Make sure you check out all our other social feeds: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Disney Plus.
No, not Disney Plus. He always throws one in. It's not true.
Oh, you're not on Disney.
No.
We got
It's
kicked
wishful
off.
thinking.
I know.
But all your favorite podcasting.
So
apps,
I think this
we
has
are
all
on.
the elements of being a show on Disney Plus.
We just need mouse ears.
Yeah. What's it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson can do the Beatles. I think we can do whiskey.
Right. Someday.
Whiskeybusinesspod.com is
There
your
you
website
go.
for everything else.
You got it right.
How about that?
You did. Our guest bottle tonight is
I'm done. Mic drop.
Nicky Winkelman is not a brown liquor drinker, but as she mentioned earlier in the text to me, when in Rome.
Yeah.
And you're going to sip a little bit of this.
Well, I used to drink whiskey quite a bit, but I'm just not much of a drinker anymore these days.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're not obligated to drink.
No, I do
Whiskey
like
on
the taste
whiskey.
of it.
Do you like rye whiskey?
I don't know.
Okay, you're going to find out. This is the
smells
Whistlepig
delicious.
Roadstock Rye Whiskey. This one's kind of a new entry in the Whistlepig family, and it's kind of a cool story. Roadstock Rye Whiskey, what they did is they filled up a semi-trailer in Vermont with a bunch of barrels, and for those of you who are familiar with Jefferson's Ocean, the hook, the marketing thing on that was that they put the barrels out to sea,
Right.
and supposedly seasoned them and got all the
waves sloshing around.
yes, everything going around.
Yeah.
Well, they did this with the Whistlepig, only they put it in a semi-trailer and got on Route 66 and traveled 6,000 miles
Were they eastbound and down?
eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Yeah, a rolling rick house, if you will, for this particular whiskey. And it's also finished. It's got a Cabernet finish in the rye and also a beer barrel finish.
Yeah, this is a weird
well.
tasting liquor.
This is 86 proof. I think it's kind of. I tried it earlier before you guys got here. Have you already taken a sip?
It's
not
like a bitter raisin is
think
what
a
I get
bitter?
right off the
Okay,
taste.
there's a lot of baking spices in it for sure. There's a lot of baking spices in it. I think it's kind of sweet. I picked up caramel and butterscotch in this, and this is only 86 proof. So
we can have doubles.
so you could just, normally we end up getting something in the 100 proof area or higher these days for some reason, but
Yeah, a lot of raisin in the after. It's not bad, but it's unusual. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in there. Nikki doesn't like it.
I like it. I'm not coughing.
yeah, no,
It's good.
no, it's got a smooth finish. A lot of people don't like rye. They say it's a little too bitter for them and whatnot, but this has got a nice little blend. And I don't know if I can pick up on the beer barrel finish as much, but I can definitely pick up on the Cabernet.
That's probably where that raisin-y flavor's
Maybe
coming
so.
from for me. Yeah.
Maybe so. This retails, depending on where you get it, somewhere between $62 and $74 a bottle.
Fancy.
Wherever you purchase your liquor when it's available. But it's kind of fun. I like the story behind it, and we'll definitely
novel.
partake in this tonight.
Do we really put it on a truck?
Yeah, it was really on a semi-trailer.
That's
traveling
wild.
for 6,000 miles.
The gas fumes and stuff.
Made some stops, to get. They moved things around a little bit and dropped some off someplace else to age in the Cabernet, and then moved some other ones to age in the beer barrel, and so forth and so on. But yeah, it was finished on the road, as they say.
That's
in fact,
crazy.
they actually. You can't tell, but it's a tire.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a tire.
I like it. Growing up in Indiana, I'm an Indianapolis 500 guy, so that it's got the two checkered flags on the front of the bottle there.
Very cool.
It went from Chicago to L.A., literally.
I thought you said Vermont.
Well, it started in Vermont, but then they took it over to Chicago, and then it got on Route 66. Why are you calling me out?
I don't know. That's the only thing I remembered from what you said a minute ago. That's why. Something about Vermont.
Then they got on Route 66, and they went, just like the song says, it runs from Chicago to L.A.
Yeah, that song is at the end of the movie Cars, so I've heard it a number of times. My son
bet.
loves the movie
I
Cars.
bet, man, there's so much going on in your life. You got a new baby, not even a baby, a toddler now,
Yeah,
right?
he's 3.
He's 3.
He's
Talking?
3. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He talks nonstop.
What's your son's name?
Flynn.
Flynn.
Fig is what I just outed him to the world. We call him Fig on the internet to keep him anonymous. Those are his initials.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah. Fig is his internet personality. Well, yeah, I don't know how you are with your kids, but I try to keep my kids pretty private with as many people as I interact with, in comedy and stuff. I just try to be private about my family
I don't think
life.
that's crazy or such a bad idea these days, especially.
Right. I don't post a ton of pictures of him or stories about him. When I do, I always call him Fig. So that's the nickname we called him when he was in womb and when he was little, but he does not like being called that. He likes being called
By his real name.
His real first name.
Of course. But Fig is going to stick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still call him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got no say in what your parents call you. Just go with the name. You go with it.
Right.
Yeah.
was
That's
Jay
how
growing up.
you were what?
I was Jay growing up.
Yeah.
Jay?
You grew up with ass all your life, right?
Yeah.
So I respond to ask.
My mom always called me Coley
Shithead.
because my real name's Nicole, so she called me Coley.
Coley.
Coley, yeah, that's what she always calls me.
That's.
I know. Yeah.
It sounds too much like colon.
Yeah, really.
Coley
Well,
blow.
Funny enough, my middle initial is N, so my name is Nicolin, which is why I go by Nicky.
So, let me. I'm going to be bouncing all over the place here because I got so many questions to ask you. But as a performer and a stand-up comedian, right? Is that what you wanted to be when you grew up? What did you want to be when you were a little kid?
Oh, I wanted to be everything, but I wanted to be famous.
You wanted to be. You knew you wanted to be famous.
I knew I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be. I would practice my Oscar acceptance speech.
Nice.
I did too.
Yeah, all the time. I just knew I was going to be there one day.
What'd you use for your Oscar?
Anything. I don't know. Gosh, I don't remember. Barbie dolls or whatever.
Did you have I remember using a brush as a microphone.
I would use a brush as a microphone. I think the award was usually a Barbie doll.
A Barbie doll?
Yeah.
It's about the same size.
Can you remember the speech?
No. It was always different. It depended on what I was winning for.
Oh, you were winning often?
Yeah.
You were Meryl Streep in it?
Well, I did think that I was going to be a dramatic actress because I did theater when I was in middle school and high school, and I wanted to, be a drama actress. And it wasn't until I studied acting in college and we had a quarter on comedy acting that I realized this is what I'm good at. And I got cast in the lead in the comedy and in my college. It was
Where'd you go to school?
UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara.
Okay, so you were out there, Hollywood, right, kind of next door, so to speak.
They have a BFA program in acting, so that's where I wanted to go.
So you see now, how many years have I known you now? 7 to 10 years,
something like that.
I never knew you had acting chops.
Yeah,
per se.
it was what I did growing up. I was in theater throughout all of high school and auditioned to get in this program. That program is crazy because something like 100 200 people audition every year. They take 30 to 40 and then they make cuts.
Wow.
So like after your first quarter and second quarter, I think even the third, they'll cut the class down to only the people they think can make it. So
And you made it.
I never feared getting cut. I was just knew I was good at it.
Don't you think that's part of it, though?
I think so.
Don't you think that's
Confidence.
part of it?
Yeah.
If you have no fear and don't obsess over it, then you become almost immune to it.
Yeah.
On some level.
It was like when we did Shakespeare and stuff, and I wasn't doing well at that. I thought, maybe I don't have this. And then I think it was like the next quarter we had our comedy acting class, and I was like, oh, I got this. And then I had a teacher. We did a solo performance writing class, and the teacher said you should write your pieces stand up. And I tried it out at an open stage night. So my first time doing comedy wasn't at a comedy night. It was an open stage night. So I was the only comedian. So I crushed. I did 10 minutes on my first time doing, and I did great because everybody was tired of, whoever with their guitar and somebody reading, reading poetry. And they're like, oh, finally we get to laugh at something. So even though it wasn't good.
Why do you say it wasn't good?
I mean, it probably wasn't good. Like looking back on it now and how I write material now and the stuff that I don't remember most of it.
So
but
you do remember that first night though that you actually did stand up comedy? Because I remember my first open mic night. And I remember sitting in the audience months before going, I could do this. I could do this, and it was terrible. It was horrible. I thought I had 7 minutes of material or 5 minutes, and I was done in 2 because there was no laughs. And while I was practicing it, I was literally practicing. I was pausing. Okay, and this will be where the laughter is. Here's the big laughter. This will no laugh at this. Wait for it. Wait for it. And then when I went up on stage and there was no laughter, I was like, okay, I'm done.
Is there a lot of this stuff?
One of the saddest things in the world. You're like, and that's why my name is Tripodis. Okay. Where's the laughter at? Where's the laugh?
Yeah. That was my first experience doing comedy at a comedy night.
Yeah.
And I went in there really, arrogant because I was like, oh, I've done 10 minutes already. I'll be fine doing 5. Oh, it was terrible.
Worst.
Yeah.
And I went back 2 weeks later because I recorded it Did you record your first? Did you ever record yourself?
Yeah, I recorded not the first time, but phones didn't do that. So,
No, I've actually had a
I had a little
micro cassette recorder.
Mm-hmm. I think I still have mine.
Yeah. And I said, I'm going back. It did not discourage me.
That's good.
Because, you know what? I know why it didn't discourage me. Because I got that one big laugh
at the end or somewhere.
At the end. The end. And I went, oh.
That feels good. Yeah.
oh, baby. Let that warm heroin laughter get into my veins. And then I listened to everything and I heard that last laugh. I heard everything else that sucked. And that last one, I was like, I'm going back.
All right. So you got one joke.
Joke. Something to build on.
Yes. Yeah.
Something to build on. I just got to make the other 2.5 minutes funny.
Yeah.
Then I went back and I won the next time.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, then the rest is really sad history.
And here we are.
Here we are right now, talking about our first time on stage. Did you feel comfortable? Did you when you said like when you took that class, you said, "Oh, this is it." I mean, did you feel like you found your muse? Because you sound like you were a really good dramatic actor.
I thought I was. I mean, and I might still be. I don't know, but
they say comedians are some of the best dramatic actors.
And it's harder to do comedy acting.
It is.
And I realized that in the class because there were several dramatic actors that were really strong in our class. And then when we got to to doing comedy, I was like, oh, not everybody can do this.
Right.
They suck.
It made me feel really powerful because I was like, I can do this. And I mean, I watched old SNL growing up. I watched John Belushi, and my dad had VHS tapes of
Did you do sketch comedy as well?
I did not until after. Well, the first time I did sketch comedy was in college, and then I joined a sketch group back here in Columbus. Sketch by Number is what we were called.
Sketch by Number.
Yeah,
That's good.
and they would write all of the sketch titles on the back of a number and stick all the numbers on the wall, and people would shout out a number, and we would do the show in the order that people called out the numbers.
So were they pre-written sketches, or was it
pre-written sketches? But we didn't know the order of the show.
Ooh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
there's no improv involved. Did you ever do
no,
improv?
I did do improv a little bit with hashtag. I did a few guest, and I did improv in college as well. What were we called? I can't remember. It's always something.
That's funny. It's like a band name.
Improbability or something. I can't remember what it was called.
And everybody, when you come across it, when you actually get the name, yes,
That's it.
that's it. That's
You're
it.
a genius.
Improbabilities.
Yeah, I think the one that I was, because I do think like we had intended to do sketch comedy as well. It was called Sketch and Sniff. That's what it was called. That's what it was called. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. That didn't last long.
Do you like improv?
I do. I like having a script better.
You do.
Yeah.
What was the last dramatic thing that you did? And would you go back to it if you had the
Last
opportunity?
dramatic thing I did. I don't know.
Could you be a dramatic actor once again? Could you call upon that
I've
muse?
thought about auditioning for
A play?
For a play, yeah. I auditioned for Available Light Theater when I first moved back here from California, and I got called back for something, but I started, going to the Funny Bone instead. So, yeah.
What is it about stand-up that you love?
My therapist was asking me this, and
I always thought I'd be a great therapist.
This is like
I
therapy.
always
Whiskey
thought I'd be a
business is
great
much like
therapist.
therapy.
Yeah.
because he was trying to glamorize it. He's like, "You like making people laugh. You like making people feel good."
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. No, I don't think that's it. I want to know, that's the therapy route. This is the whiskey business route. We'll get to the nitty gritty of it. Why do you love stand-up comedy, Nicky Winkelman?
I do like making people laugh. I've always tried to make people laugh, even as a kid. I was always, the ham of the family. My dad would call me a ham. And whenever there was a party or people were over, I was on.
Was that for the attention, or did you actually get pleasure out of entertaining people?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I think I liked the attention. I did enjoy making people laugh. Like you said, that heroin rush of
Right.
of feeling that laughter.
There's
Something about it.
there's some power there.
Yeah.
There's some control
Yeah.
there. When you can make people laugh, you have a little bit of power and control over them. Yes, as a child, for sure. Now you have their attention.
Right.
And and they're hitting each other. Your daughter is so cute, and and the parents get she's so funny. She's just like you.
Yeah.
Right. Was
Yeah,
your mom a funny person?
My mom is funny. She wouldn't think that she's as funny as she is. So I did one of these shows where so local comedian Nick Glasser put on 2 shows where comedians' dads did a show with them for Father's Day.
Oh, wow.
And then comedians' moms. And so both my mom and my dad did it. And my dad was like, "Oh, I'm going to be great." And he thought he was going to be so funny. And he completely ran the light. Like, he wasn't terrible, but like he just did okay. My mom was so scared. She was like, I'm gonna be awful. She said she went up there, she couldn't see anything, the lights were, she crushed.
She killed it.
Yeah, she did like 3.5 minutes, but she was great the whole time. She got off stage, she goes, "I'm never doing that again."
She was awesome.
So if there is a funny gene, genetically speaking, in comedy, I would say mine comes from my mother. She has a very wry, sarcastic sense of humor. While my father was a humorous guy, he had a sense of humor. I think most of it comes from my mom. So does your sense of humor come more from your mother or your father?
That's tough to say. I think it's probably a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. That's fair.
There was something my dad said recently that kind of made me go, "That's where I get it from." So I know we were planning on talking about this later, but my dad had a stroke in December of 2020, just to cap off the year.
Yeah, right. So sorry to hear that. And because we talked about that in text, and I'm like, wow, I did not know that. So I'm really sorry.
Thank you. He's still alive. He is in a wheelchair. He lost function of the right side of his body. So he can't use his right hand or his right leg. And he was actually already partially handicapped in the left leg. So he's wheelchair bound. And his speech was dramatically altered as well. And I couldn't see him because of COVID. So that was the hardest part, was trying to navigate all of this without him really being able to use the phone. And I couldn't go down there and all of that. And then we found a way to get an iPad in there so that he could FaceTime with us. And it was New Year's Eve, and I FaceTime with him, and he had some beads on. And I said, "Oh, look at you with your Mardi Gras beads for New Year's Eve." I said, "What'd you have to do to get those?" And he said, "Have a stroke."
Oh, man.
And I thought, that's where I get it from. That is where I get it from.
Oh, man.
And he was so deadpan about it. It was like such perfect delivery.
The timing,
Like,
dead on.
yeah.
Wow.
I didn't deliver it as well just now. It was really perfect. I couldn't stop laughing. And he laughed too, so yeah. He's still there mentally, completely. He's the same mentally.
How is that hard for you to see that? I mean, when my mother in the last couple of years, she broke a hip or a hip joint. And watching her go through that was just hard enough.
Yeah,
I can't. But she's mentally intact like nobody's business. So I'm asking because I how is that to watch as a daughter?
It's tough. I've tried to stay focused on the positive things, when his neighbors, "How's he doing?" I'd always focus on, he's the same spirit. He's, and he was working really hard in rehab to try and stand and try and get movement again in his hand. And he really worked hard on his speech. So I always focused on the positive things, but yeah, it's hard. He was a home remodeler too.
Oh boy! So
and he was a very talented carpenter. So
How old is he?
He's 70. Okay. Yeah, but he the whole situation was so wild because his mom is 94 years old. She's 93 at the time, and 2 years earlier than that, he decided she can't live on her own and moved her in with him. So I got a call at 2:00 in the morning from him saying, I think I'm having a stroke. I need you to come over and take care of my mom. So I went over there right away. You know, he was already gone in the ambulance. The night before his stroke, he tore out his entire kitchen.
Oh, jeez.
You can't help but laugh at like the whole thing was like, so now I'm in a home with a 93-year-old with no kitchen. It was so unreal and stressful because then I'm trying to like get his crew to come in and finish the kitchen, and I'm trying to FaceTime with him to figure out what it was that he wanted because he still wanted to finish it the way that he wanted. And
Right.
it was.
So are your parents together, divorced?
No, they're divorced.
They're divorced.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're on good terms though. My mom's
Right.
actually been really helpful with my
Good.
dad since
Good.
and she's been really helpful with his mom because she's like a daughter to my.
And how's her health?
She's great. And as soon as it happened, she was like, I gotta start exercising and eating right. So then, which was so sweet. She was like, I gotta stay in the best health possible for you. So.
That's got to be an interesting family dynamic to be the daughter and have to tend to the father, but to still have the mother around and alive to take care of the son.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's been the hardest part because he was taking care of her and she can't take care of herself. And I had to remind her every day why he wasn't there because she would wake up and reset. So, and she's now living in a nursing facility, which was a really tough decision to make. But I knew I couldn't continue to take care of her because I got a 3-year-old, you know. So that was really tough.
She in town?
Yeah, she's in Friendship Village. Okay. Yeah.
So my wife's grandma's there. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, at least the
nice.
facilities are nice, and you know she's in a
They got a
safe
garden
place.
and everything.
Yeah.
Good.
We got her a room with a window now, so
Nice.
she's happy.
So when I
She brought
hadn't
us here
seen
one
you
day
in the
for
longest
dinner.
amount
It
of
was nice.
time, I complimented you immediately because you looked amazing. You lost a bunch of weight. You got after
did.
the baby and everything else.
Yeah.
And then you told that this is how you lost the
It
weight.
is, because if you think about everything I just told you long enough, you will also forget to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is that is what happened.
But you feel great.
I look great. No, I feel terrible.
Fucking banging.
I do. That I've been struggling with my health because of the weight loss. And I went to the doctor several times and she just finally told me, she's like, you just need to eat.
So you're not eating properly?
I wasn't eating enough, yeah. Because I was stressed, and I'm a person who stress starves instead of some people when they're stressed they eat a lot, and I do the opposite. I get my stomach knots up, and so I don't eat.
Could I just get a little bit of that?
Right,
in
you know, that's
my
what
life,
I was like,
because
I
I
want
stress
just like somewhere in the middle.
I stress eat.
Yeah.
I go the other way.
Right.
You know, I get stressed out. I want to just
It's
eat
like a
everything.
stomach flu. You just go give me a touch of it.
Just a little bit,
Yeah.
just so I can just lose a few pounds.
Well, but that's what I've been thinking a lot about it, because after my son was born, I was 190 pounds, which was the heaviest I'd ever been. And it took me a long time to feel comfortable in a heavier body and to feel like I was still beautiful, even though I wasn't quote unquote that heavy, right? You know, I got down to 175 and I'm tall, so, and I carry it well, you know.
That's
That's what people say, right?
There's two compliments. You look good for your age, and you put on something, but you carry it well.
But I really tried to dive into the body positivity. And so I started like following a lot of body positive models and influencers and stuff like it, people who talk about it and advocate for it. And there's so much misinformation about weight and health. And I didn't quite realize it until I had lost all the weight and felt worse than I did when I was fat.
Really?
Because I would go to the doctor if when I was fat and I went to the doctor, I would say, I'm having these issues. They'd be like, well, you need to lose weight. But when I was horribly thin and I went to the doctor, they were like, well, let's run a bunch of labs. Let's send you to a specialist. Let's do all of these things for you. They don't immediately jump to, well, you need to gain weight. So there's, Yeah, and it really made me start thinking about things differently, and about like how we value ourselves and how we value each other, and what that means. And I got so into it, and I got into like the fashion and everything with my body size when I was heavier, that then when I lost the weight and people were like, you look so great. And then there's nothing wrong with those compliments, but I was like, well, I looked good before, you know?
Right.
Do you think if you're a man that and you lost all that weight, that they would have said, we're going to do all these tests, or would they have said,
I don't know.
eat some pizza?
I really don't know.
It's like,
Yeah.
Would it be different?
Bulk up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so often that people with legitimate health issues who are heavier that go to a doctor, their immediate response is, well, you need to lose weight. And I think there's just a lot of misinformation about weight and health and how those two things relate, because I absolutely felt better when I was 175 than I do right now.
Okay.
And I don't say right now. I've gained about 10 pounds back since you last saw me, which is good, because I was just like dehydrated, and like the tests that came back, they were like, she's like, you need more glucose in your blood. Like you don't have enough,
No, they say
energy
if you want to, you need to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
I don't.
What color was your pee?
Well,
Was it light or was it dark and amber?
do you want me to give you a real answer?
We want your analysis, because we know that if it was light and clear, that you're hydrated.
You're not going to expect the answer.
Okay.
Never mind. Don't answer it.
No, my urine is like highlighter bright yellow.
Whoa.
Because I take riboflavin, which is B2, and it makes your pee like fluorescent yellow.
Wow. So you don't have to turn the lights on when you...
The first time I saw it, I was like, what is wrong with me? And called the doctor back, and they're like, oh, that's normal if you're on B2.
See, you would say what was wrong with me, and I would say, I'm a superhero.
I know.
Right?
It's like,
Fight crime with my pee.
here, drink this.
Superpowers.
Yeah, it was a shock the first time I saw it. But yeah.
So I'm gonna try to connect the dots here, because I'm listening and hearing certain things, like, as far as the stress eating, you went the other way and you didn't eat. So there's stress involved. And then you're doing stand up and you're doing your thing, and then you take a break.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you take a break? And when you talk about the stress eating, I'm going to attempt to go down a path to ask if there is some emotional things connected to that.
To the break?
To the break and to the whole, like I said, I'm going to try to connect the dots a little bit. Because, and I don't mean to generically place comedians in this particular category. Right. But we all seem to have our fair share of emotional issues.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something that draws that type of person, because it's people whose lives are great and they get up and try to be funny about it. It's like, you're not going to do that well.
Right.
You find humor in the dark things in order to survive.
There is humor in the pain.
Yeah.
If you decide to mind it. Yeah.
I always said that about music too. It's like, the angst, the people who are always like had the trouble life had the best.
Imagine if
songs.
Kelly Clarkson's father hadn't left. You know what I mean?
Since you've been around.
Right. Like,
Since you've been around.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it does sound the same.
Been around. Since you're still here, everything's great.
Because of you, I feel loved.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, no, but there's some truth to that, because you speak a lot of truth in your stand-up.
Yeah.
I think you're probably, honestly, one of the most truthful people on stage that I've seen. I went and, and saw the one woman thing.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
I saw a whole nother side of you. And while I was entertained, I was also impressed.
Thank you.
No, seriously, I was entertained and impressed, and I thought to myself, God damn it, that's some pretty brave shit. I mean, because you put some real, honest, powerful, revealing things out there.
Yeah.
And that takes some. I know you don't have them, but balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't, do you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Maybe
She would've
maybe
brought
that's
that
why
up,
your piece
yeah.
so yellow.
Yeah.
Call back, ladies and gentlemen. We have
Right.
a call back on whiskey business.
I wasn't expecting to talk about the color of my urine tonight. But here we are.
But
yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna walk into.
So yeah, let's connect those dots.
Yeah, I started writing the show early in. I mean, I had been rolling around the concept of it for a while because when I was working at Shadowbox in the upfront stage, we had a lot of people do one-person shows, and I thought, oh, I want to do that, But I thought, well, what am I going to do? Because a lot of the one-person shows are people talking to the audience, and I'm like, well, I do that in stand-up. I don't want it to just be a stand-up show. I want to have dialogue, but have it still just be a one-person show. So instead of doing a one-man show, I did a one-mannequin show. And so it was me and a mannequin.
It's genius.
Yeah,
It's great.
I remember. That's all I remember
Yeah.
you talking about is the mannequin.
And the mannequin played the main character, and I played all the other characters so that I could change characters throughout. And so first I was interviewing the mannequin, and then I was the mannequin's roommate, and then their coworker, and then their therapist. And
How did you get them to talk?
I didn't. The show was called BadListener, and the whole thing is about dialogue that you have with people that ends up being monologue.
Right.
So every time I would start to give space for or ask a question, I would interrupt, or something else would happen, or a phone would ring, or whatever, so that she never got an opportunity to talk. And so that kind of gave me the through line of what the story I wanted to tell.
And it's
brilliant.
and it's sustained. It's sustained through the whole
Thank
thing.
you,
It didn't get old or okay. It worked.
Thank you. Yeah,
No, it did.
I wasn't sure if it would, and I was very happy to have a show at the end of putting it all together. It was really
Do you have it on? Is it on the internets?
I don't. I have video of it, but it's from several different angles, and so I'd have to edit. I'm no
I know
editor.
a guy named John
Yeah.
Whitney.
You
Yeah.
can do it again, maybe?
I would love to do it again. I did it twice, and I feel like it was really strong the first time, and then the second show wasn't quite as strong, and I feel like it could, everything
Sure.
you do, you're like, I want to edit it and change a few things or whatever.
That's
but,
kind of the beautiful thing about stage and theater is that you can. It's when we shoot films. We shoot and we reshoot and then we edit, but you can actually change it in the moment each time on there. So if you were able to do that consistently for X amount of nights or weeks, who's to say where it could go and grow to? I mean, it's amazing. But then you stopped.
Well, I think that was part of it, was that it all kind of happened together, because I started working on the show. I got an artist grant from GCAC to do the show, which was wonderful. I couldn't have done it without them. So I
Greater
was,
Columbus Art Council.
yes, that's right. Yes. Shout out. Yeah.
Shout out. There you go.
Greatest.
Never thought I would buy a mannequin with grant money, but I did.
That's nice.
Yes, I would love to do the show again, but it is emotionally exhausting, because it is a lot about me, about my struggles, about therapy. And at the same time, there were a lot of other things happening as in the business side of comedy for me as a booker in the room that were becoming increasingly difficult for me to navigate. The Me Too movement has been wonderful for women, but it has also been emotionally exhausting. And trying to figure out where you draw lines with performers who are problematic, and how do you create safe spaces, and how do you know who to book and who not to book, and who to put together, and when situations happen, how to handle that. And I just didn't want to. I mean, I know that sounds awful, but I worked really hard to try and make the stage a safe space and avoid conflict, avoid booking people that were known to be problematic. But then that also becomes an issue, because it's like, then you get marked as either one way or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Either you're a person who is you're canceling people, or you're part of the problem by allowing people to have a space.
Everything's black and white these days.
It is, and it doesn't. It shouldn't be. And I remember having a long conversation with another local comedian in town, Travis Awisher, about that. And he said something that really stuck with me, is that part of the problem with this black and white is that there's no room for growth. It's like we don't give any room for growth. It's like if somebody messes up, it's like they're canceled, they're done. And no matter what apology they give, it's never enough, you know? And so that's really hard, because it's like it
stagnates.
Where do we allow for growth? Yeah.
Don't people learn? That's the problem.
And then it brings the question of what's unforgivable. You know, sometimes it's easy. You're like, okay, yeah, R. Kelly, lock him up. Don't let him around people anymore. Like, that's easy, right?
No brainer.
But sometimes with other issues, it's like you don't know where to draw that line, you know?
And when they go back 10 and 15,
they go digging.
To find something out that you said that at the time nobody thought was offensive, given the moment and where we were. I'm not saying that makes it right, but it was where we were.
The one that really upset me recently was Billie Eilish, who is 18, 19. She's still a teenager,
Still a kid.
Right? And they dug something up from when she was 12 or 13, lip syncing to a song where she lip syncs a slur. And I'm like, if you're going to make a child publicly apologize for something they did when they were 12. What are we doing? Right. That's when I was like, this is not and this is not what the movement was supposed to be about, you know?
But isn't that the way it always is with movements?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, at their core, they begin, wow, yes, this is good. Yeah. And then it frays.
Right.
And then it gets...
Well, and I said that. I was like, the pendulum has to swing.
Right.
In order for things to come back to the middle. You know, things have to get really extreme to where it's like, okay, now we're booking only women, you know? And it's like, well, that's not ultimately what we want. No, that's not. But like the pendulum has to swing, and then it'll
It's interesting perspective, because you are a woman coming from your perspective too. It's just interesting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough, and I think there were a lot of other women in the comedy scene who felt more on the woke side than me. Like, maybe I'm not woke enough, you know? And then I was like, am I just old?
Right.
Like, you know?
And what is that? What's the definition of being woke enough?
Well, and you know, it was like
who gets to judge that?
Yeah. So there was a big boycott of the Funny Bone when they allowed Louis C.K. And so there was a show that went on where the local comedians were like, well, we're going to do this show on the same night and come out support this instead of that, you know. And that stuff is tough. It's tough because that's our only club, you know.
Mm-hmm. Is that why you get?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
John. I can
dissuade
dissuade anybody from going to Louis C.K. because his fans will always be his fans.
Right. Yeah. And yes, you want to hold the clubs responsible for having a safe space, right? Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, it's a business, you know, and they don't need me.
There's some very fine lines. There are.
And when I first started comedy, it was like just part of it. It was like, I'm going to get harassed, and whatever guy is running the show is going to ask me to sleep with him, and that's just part of it, you know? And sometimes it was like, well, how good's the gig? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I understand. And that's a shitty part of it.
It is a shitty part of it.
And I'm glad that part's corrected.
Yes, it shouldn't be part of it. But, like, for me, it was like, I just went, not that I was sleeping with people, but I just went along with a certain amount of harassment because I was like, well, I'm trying to make it.
Yeah, in that respects, I'm glad that's corrected. Because that's one extra stumbling block that you should never have had to have dealt with.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I remember I was on a 2-night gig, and the headliner got so drunk that I offered to drive him back to the hotel, which was a big mistake.
Big mistake.
And he I don't know how, I shouldn't get, I guess, trigger warning. He tried to grope me in the car while I was driving him. And so I called the booker, and the booker said, I can replace you if you want.
I can replace you.
He said he could replace me.
He could replace you. That's bullshit.
Yeah, but I at the time I was like, no, it's fine. I'll just do the next night because I didn't want to like lose the bookings.
Lose the gig, right?
Yeah, and I did not get bookings from that booker again for a while after that because I was difficult.
That's crazy.
I was seen as being difficult.
And how was the rest of the week with said headliner?
It was just one more night of shows, and I just avoided him. And I asked the booker to call him and tell him to leave me alone. So. But that's why I was seen as being...
Did he have a recollection of the
No,
he
tried. I think he tried to apologize. He wrote a bunch of notes and slid them under my hotel room door.
Yeah.
It was not a fun weekend. But I didn't quit because I was like, it's just part of it. And now I'm like, hey, that doesn't have to be part of it.
No, it doesn't. You know? I mean, I don't recall being harassed by a comedy club.
Not while you're driving down the road.
No, being harassed by female comedy club managers that, if you want to work here, you're going to have to sleep with me. That never happened.
Yeah. No, we work with a bunch of female people in the broadcasting industry, and some of them are the same stories, in this uber masculine world, especially on the rock station, some of the women. And they just say, it's just what you deal with.
Right.
I guess what we're trying to get at is, I think if that's what's changing, I think that's a good thing.
No,
but if you're stifling the creativity, that's where.
But what you're saying is
going too far.
It's when that pendulum started to swing too far and got away really from the focus of it.
Because it became like, okay, well, then it's like
when it started to fray.
Yeah, you're like, well, so obviously if that guy who did that to me, it's like if I was a booker, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to book that guy anymore. But then it's hard to know where to draw that line because then it's like, well, it became this thing. It was like apologists was one of the categories of people that we were supposed to not work with. That people who defended other people who were problematic and we're still friends with them and still working with them. And so I was like, well, then how far does this go?
Yeah. How deep?
Yeah. And that's when I was kind of like, you know what? I just don't want to.
And you got out.
I just show up and do my time like I used to when I was getting harassed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I didn't want to have to be the person that decided who got stage time and who didn't.
Well, and that's the point is who decides it? Because right now it's just the people that talk the loudest.
Right.
But I know right now, to shift gears, they're on the sports thing. They're really talking. They're making a big thing about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he's the devil. He's the bad guy. But in the meantime, there was a football player who was wasted driving 150 miles an hour and killed somebody, but he's like nobody's even talking about him anymore because Aaron Rodgers has a bad haircut and is talking about COVID. So it's just like whose job is it to decide what we're allowed to, who's get canceled or not, what we're allowed to do or not?
Yeah, it just became too much for me, and it didn't even. That was even just it wasn't even all of it. There was a bunch of other stuff that happened and then. On top of everything, because I was booking 4 nights a week, I was gone from the house 4 nights a week. And my son at the time, was not even 2. And if I got dressed up and put makeup on, he would go, "Mommy, go to work."
Oh.
And I was like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the house, not spend time with my son to deal with the stress of who am I canceling.
So the shutdown was almost a godsend in a way.
Well,
So you spent a lot of time with your kid. I mean,
oh yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
But you had
found
already out before
that,
we shut down.
Right.
So
yeah,
whether the shutdown was, there's not a whole lot of very many positive things you can get out of the shutdown, but
I think there are people that got positive things out of it.
That it coincided with your decision to.
Yeah.
That was a bad phrase.
No, not at all.
It gave me
positive.
It gave me it made me stay out of it because people were like, you'll be back in a month. And I was like,
a lot of people said that. Yeah. You're gonna miss it.
You'll miss it. You'll be back. And I did wonder, I was like, is it going to be hard for me to see somebody else booking and running that room?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't.
Because I feel like in a way I made that room, I started working with Jimmy Mack on that room 5 years previous. And
love Jimmy.
I love Jimmy too. And he was
Shout out Jimmy Mack.
Yeah.
What's up, Jimmy?
He was so great because he trusted me and he knew that he would let me take chances on stuff. And if something didn't work, we were like, well, that didn't work, and then we try something else. But we didn't really have anywhere to go but up at that time because the room was losing money. and he was working with another comic, and they were giving him a set payout, and they weren't getting enough people in the seats to cover the payout. And I said, let me do a door deal. I said, I'll get butts in the seats, and I make money based on the butts in the seats. And the payout was like 200 or something. But if I put more than,
Right.
a certain number of people in there, then I got more than 200. And so he was like, okay, we'll try it. And that's what we did from that point on. And we started filling it up and expanding because we were just doing Tuesdays. And then we started doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They got #comedy in there on Wednesday nights as like permanent residents on Wednesdays. And then we started doing some Thursday shows, some Friday shows. My trivia show, The Quiz Box, was once a month on
A lot of fun.
on Fridays. I loved that show. And and so I in a way, the growth of the room, I felt a big part of that. Right. So it was going to be hard to see somebody else adopt my baby, you know? I am sad that it's not reopened yet, but I hope they do reopen it because it was a great
The main
stage.
stage is open again.
The main stage is open again.
Stage is
yeah.
open. Yeah, we when we were doing our little offshoot, The Premise, we had a blast doing it, and we would love to go back and do it again someday. So I'm hoping when they open that room up that we'll get a chance to do it again. Yeah. So when you left for a lot of reasons.
A lot of reasons.
Some professional.
Mm-hmm. Some personal.
And what were the
family.
Personal ones? Aside from family, you said you mentioned your son.
Some of it was also anxiety and depression as well. I was getting a lot of anxiety of. It wasn't ever on stage. It was off stage. It was having to be myself to people who wanted to talk to me after shows. And then I would just go home feeling this like panic.
Why?
You know, I don't know. I think when we were talking earlier about what is it that you love about stand-up, it's that like when I'm on, I don't have to worry as much about being me. I'm still me, but I'm like a character of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like much like comedy and exaggeration.
Yeah. But then it was hard to come off stage and turn off. So it was either like still on and talking to people, and then that would feel weird.
Did it feel like a shield?
Yeah.
Like up on stage, there's this shield, and you are being you. Granted, maybe an exaggerated version as far as the humor goes, but once you get off the stage, the shield is down, and now you're that much more vulnerable to those people who were laughing at you and enjoying you. Now they're getting that much closer to you, and it's a little different. There's no shield.
Yeah, and it was like, I think because I'm so honest and personal on stage too, it's like people felt like they really knew me.
Right.
And I'm like, just because you know me doesn't mean I know you. You know, people would be very familiar with me. Mm-hmm. I remember one time standing at the front, and Jimmy and I would do greetings as people came into the room. And we were standing at the front, and some people came in, and they were like, "How's the baby? He's just so cute. We love seeing his pictures, whatever." And they went to sit down, and Jimmy was like, "Who are those people?" And I was like, "I have no idea.
Oh, no clue.
No shit.
Don't know their names, didn't recognize their faces." And that scared me. And that's when I was like, I got to stop posting pictures of my kid, you know?
Okay.
We get that a little bit at work.
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah. It's, so anxiety.
Yeah.
Depression.
Yeah.
Have you always been, suffered with depression or struggled with depression?
Yeah. I started therapy in 2008. I want to say 2008, and I've been going to therapy pretty consistently since then.
Same therapist?
Not anymore,
right.
But I did have one therapist that and I say 2008. 2008 is when I met that therapist.
Right.
But yeah, I did see him for a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I too have done therapy, and I've worn him out.
Yeah.
That's why I asked. Same therapist? Like, wow. Really?
Yes.
Cool. For a long time?
For quite a long time. I see a different therapist now because Gabe and I see a therapist together, and we see the same therapist separately as well. So we have a counselor who specializes in couples, but then we also have individual sessions with that same therapist. So that way therapy is a part of our relationship as well. And it's made us absolutely stronger.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool.
That's
and
pretty
it's
cool.
very cool that he's on board with that.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah.
Okay, so is he going to the therapy with you for the sake of the relationship, or does he also have his own personal Did he go to therapy alone?
Not before we started going to couples.
Okay.
I think he had in the past,
Because he's an artist.
times. He is, yeah.
He's an amazing artist.
Yes, and he's not anti-therapy at all.
No, but also, so when we talk about artists and we go into that generic stereotype that artists have so much pain and so much pathos and so much angst that they're trying to go. He's not your husband yet. We're going to get to that in a second.
My fiance.
Your fiance.
My lord.
Yeah. But he's got his artistic streak, and I'm sure that there's a lot of emotion, be it pain, joy, whatever that comes out in his work.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of being an artist is working some of that out through your art. But I've always advocated to stand-ups that the stage does not equal therapy. It may feel like it, and I'm not saying that
stage is therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be in a certain way, but it doesn't replace actual therapy.
No, it doesn't. But it is interesting how a lot of people oh man, you go up there and you talk about your life and you get it all out. No, we don't get it all out.
No.
We probably get this much out. We squeeze out what we think will be the funny part.
Right.
Yeah.
And the feedback that you get is laughter.
Right.
Whereas when you're talking to an actual therapist, they're like, well, here's something that you can do to actually improve that situation
Right.
instead of just laughing at it and
Crack a
calling
joke
it a
and
day.
they just stare at you.
Exactly.
Do you experience comedic highs?
Yeah.
And after the comedic highs, do you experience the low?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
interesting.
I call it post-social anxiety because I don't get anxious in social situations. I get anxious after the social situation. I go home and I panic about everything that I said.
So let's use this podcast as an example because this podcast is going wonderfully, amazingly well. Are you going to go home and obsess about what we discussed on this podcast tonight?
Yeah, I'll be like, why did I tell them the color of my pee?
Because I asked.
We're gonna be talking about that for a while.
Because I asked, and you're open and you're honest.
As soon as you leave, we'll be like, "Can you believe
and
you
you
told
said,
us?"
do you want to know about the color of my pee? And we all unanimously said, yes, we do. Yes, we
Also,
do.
I'm glad you clarified as a yellow highlighter because highlighters come in
highlighter.
all
Yeah,
shapes
it's
and
gonna be
colors.
pink, it's gonna be
Pink
light
highlighter, green
Mauve,
highlighter.
You made it very vivid for that one.
yellow highlighter.
It is very vivid.
Yellow highlighter's a great image.
She's got a black light in the toilet.
Probably
I'm
not as
curious.
much. I'm sure I will, but not as much because I've been doing work on it, and also because we're talking about that.
Right.
I think I did after the last one, and I did with a lot of the virtual shows. I think, but also just the isolation amplified that. It was great at first because I was like, now I don't have to be in social situations.
Right. I don't have to see people.
Right. But then when I would go back into social situations, it was like, oh, I'm out of practice. you know?
We've talked about the podcast high, or get to a bigger extent the stand up show. But that's where I get in trouble because me, I'll go home and I'll be wound up and I'll just still keep drinking. It'll be 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta go to work in an hour.
See, you go home at the podcast. When we're done here, I'm done. I don't drink anymore after.
But I'm like hyped up.
I'm still hyped up, but I find other things to do. And what's interesting is no matter I'll use today as a perfect example. Not a great day for me. It was what I call the struggle bus. It was a struggle bus day today. But as soon as you walked up, sat down, and we had our pleasantries and our exchanges, and we started this podcast, I know right now I'm in that good space.
Yeah.
And I'm also very much aware of the fact that once you leave and once these two yahoos go home, that it's gonna sink in, and I'm gonna be in a now what?
Yeah.
Frame of mind
Yeah.
for a little bit, and eventually I'll go to sleep because I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to work. But I will be in that spot, and it's interesting. It's like you do feel a little lost.
Yeah.
Like, where do I go? What do I do? And I still haven't been able to figure out what that next step is or what that transition might be. Have you? I mean, let's share therapy notes.
I mean, I use mindfulness techniques is one of the things that I learned early on. So
Share.
Do you have an app?
Well, I think there is
Yeah.
so I did a therapy called DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. And
Say that again. Say it.
dialectical behavioral, I think the T is therapy or it's treatment. I can't remember. It's terrible. I should know what it stands for. But DBT, and it's designed for people, mostly for people with borderline personality disorder. But I truly believe it should be taught in schools because they just teach you skill sets. And there's 4 different modules of it. There's mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, distress tolerance, and emotion regulation. And so like emotion regulation is like what you use when you're just as an example, mad about something you don't need to be that mad about. It's like, okay, how do I regulate my emotions? Distress tolerance is when you're like, okay, I'm sad because my dad had a stroke. It's like, okay, that's the sadness fits the facts, as they say. So I'm sad for
it's legitimized.
Right. Yeah. For a real reason here. And so now I have to tolerate the distress. Right.
Gotcha.
So those 2 things, it's kind of first you got to figure out, does it fit the facts? And then you use those skills to either manage and change your emotions or tolerate the emotions that you're feeling that fit the facts. Interpersonal effectiveness absolutely should be taught in schools. It's like, it gives you tools for communicating with people that most people just don't have, you know? And it breaks it down so academically because it's like every conversation, it's like you first identify like what your objective is. And they say there's 3 things in every interpersonal conversation. So if I'm talking to you, there is...
You are.
Yeah, so I'm talking to you,
right
Dino. There's our relationship. Mm-hmm. There's my self-respect.
Right.
And there's whatever it is we're talking about. So say I want you to do something. I'm asking you to, I don't know, loan me money.
That wouldn't be unusual.
Yeah.
So like easy enough, right? You know, but like you have to, when you're like, if you're in those conversations, you say, okay, so what's most important to me? Is it having my objective met? Is it maintaining our relationship or is it maintaining my self-respect?
Wow.
So that played in a lot when I was dealing with all the stuff in comedy, because if it was like, okay, like when I wanted to step away from working it up front and I had to talk to my boss about leaving, it's like, okay, so what's important here? Maintaining the relationship with my boss? Well, not yes and no. I don't want to burn a bridge, but it's more important that my objective is met, that I no longer work here.
Right.
Gotcha.
But I also want to maintain my self-respect. I'm not going to go in there and be like, fist blaze, you know, like, and just leave. So I don't know how much I can cuss on this podcast.
You can cuss all you want.
Yeah, I would say, fuck you, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not going to do that because that goes against my self-respect. It also doesn't maintain the relationship, but it would meet my objective pretty quickly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So it's about balancing those 3 things and what's important. You know, like if somebody's got a gun to your head and your objective is to live, your self-respect might go right out the window.
It might.
Yeah, where you're like, I don't care, I'll do whatever if you won't kill me.
Right.
You know, but in other situations, you're like, no, I want to maintain my self-respect, and that's more important than meeting my objective.
And isn't it interesting? And that's a brash example, but and I'm using it as an example only. But yeah, gun to your head, and you want to live. Okay, I'll do whatever you tell me. But isn't it interesting that there's been a point in your life where you're like, go ahead, pull the fucking trigger.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's certain things that you're like,
do it.
Yeah. So certain things that you might not sacrifice in those moments. I don't really know. I mean, if it was...
I mean, I've been there. Like, you know what? Yeah. Pull do it.
Yeah.
And like, are you crazy? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a
I
matter of
am.
fact, I'm a fucking little
I've
crazy.
spent a lot of money on being crazy.
I'm a little fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm like, I'm not saying calling the bluff, but
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's interesting that up here and in here that we can get to those 2 different places. So that I find that very interesting to say, you know, you want to maintain your self-respect, or
Right.
do you want to, using the harsh example, do you want to live? But that's
and there are certain people that would say, you know, no, I'd rather die with honor, you know, that
Right.
kind of thing. It was, you know,
Yeah, die
No,
with
not
honor,
me.
or you know, I'm too chicken to do it myself. So
well,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know if I'm not. it's interesting how having a child has really made my existence feel much more important than it did before. You know,
Yeah, you're responsible for.
Now I'm so much more scared of something bad happening to me because I'm like, oh, what would happen to him?
Right.
You know.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's good.
No, if that makes you a little more self-protective for the right reasons, you know, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Trust me, I want to live as long as I possibly can live because my daughter, who's I don't know how old you are.
I'm 37.
You're 37. Danielle's 39.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to constantly have an eye on her and protect and be protective. I'm still protective. She was here with me for a year during the pandemic. She moved back from New York and was in this house for a year. It's the first year that we'd spent together, you know, in 20 years.
Yeah.
It completely changed my daily dynamic. But wow.
Yeah.
When she went back to New York and I walked into this house and it was empty. I mean, you know, really empty. Like she's not coming in. There's not going to be a sandwich that she made me in the refrigerator. It was a little heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, and so I get what you're saying about that.
Yeah. Well, it also made me realize that my existence did matter before him, you know, because now that I know how much he means to me, it allows me to see how much I mean to my own mother and my own father. You know what I mean? That didn't really click before I had him. Not that it can't for people, but it didn't for me in the same way.
Are you in a better place now? I mean, if when you look at your life and where you've been and where you still want to go, you know, if you were grading on a curve, on a curve, you know, 10 being the best, where would you think you are right now in life?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's so hard to say that because
it involves having a little bit of self-esteem and thinking positive about yourself.
And there were times when I was younger and I felt invincible, that I was like, my life's great. You know, I can do whatever I want. And I don't have that same, I can do whatever I want.
I always used to say, you know, I strive for perfection, but hope to never achieve it. Because if I achieve it, then what else do I have to strive for? You know, so that was always my goal. And there have been times in my life where I've been a fucking solid 9, a really good 8. I'll be honest right now. I think I'm at a 6. I'm at a 6. It's a 6. I'm a good solid 6.
Yeah.
7 with
I'm
beer
batting a little
goggles.
better than 500, but you know,
It's more than half full.
Yeah, you know, a 6. There are moments where it rises up to 7. You know, tonight, right now, I'm cruising with a 8.5. I feel great.
There you go.
But as soon as you guys are gone, it's going to go back down to a 6.
I mean, I think that's true for me too, is it changes from day to day and from moment to moment, you know?
But are you, I guess what I'm trying to say is when we talk about depression and mental illness and situations and things that we struggled with all our lives, do you think you're in a better place right now than you were, say, 5 or 10 years ago?
Ooh, that's tough because the even the therapy ebbs and flows, you know? I think that I was in a really solid place before I had my son, and having my son opened up a whole lot of other things that I needed to address in therapy, and my fear level has just gone through the roof.
Interesting. So while you have this gift of a child.
Right. But I'm so scared of something happening to me or happening to him or happening to Gabe, and I think I'm
Did it supplant other things? Did it like, you know, now this is because of this, now I don't worry so much about that?
Yeah, I don't worry so much about my Oscar acceptance speech. You know, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah, you know, I worry about, you know, him, just everything. I worry about him all the time.
Yeah, that's part about being a parent, though.
Yeah.
As soon as something is more important than yourself, you're always worried about that. When my son was first born, I said, you know, if you both are floating in a river, I'm grabbing him and you're going to die. She goes, I agree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we like Gabe and I, when he was first born, I was like, just so you know, like I love you, but I love him more. And he was like, oh yeah, we're on the same page.
on the
Like,
same
yeah,
page.
we're on the same page.
Yeah, I'm going to drown too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I worry all the time about, stuff happening to him. I think to the point where maybe I'm being a little bit overprotective as a parent. So I'm
Okay.
trying to work on that in therapy
My
as well.
mother is
letting
85
go.
years old.
Yeah.
She's still overprotective.
Yeah.
Look at me. We're growing beards and mustaches for November, right? We're mustaches. I got to shave the beard. And I know that it's at my age, when I go to see my mother for Thanksgiving, I'm going to have to shave. She's going to make me shave, and I'm going to do it. Because
Why did she make you shave?
she likes her boy to be clean shaven.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See, that's my point.
I think that's a preference. That's not necessarily overprotective. So yeah.
But then she'll
Okay, yeah.
that's her way in. That's her in. Now, trust me, I've been working with the crazy lady for a lot of years,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that the crazy lady has made me crazy over as well. My point being is that I think it's awesome that you have that love and that passion for your child. He's so lucky in that respect. But yeah, it comes with a price.
Yeah. Because, I took him to a birthday party and there was a bounce house. And I was like, the bounce house doesn't look safe. That can't be safe. Right. He's going to break his neck in there. And then I imagine all of the terrible things that can happen in the bounce house, including a gust of wind taking it away with all the children inside, which is a real thing that happens.
It can happen.
It's a real thing that happens. You can look it up on the internet, but I don't recommend it.
I got a couple things I want to ask you before we wrap up. And one is professional. Mm-hmm. And maybe it winds up being personal, and one is personal. Okay, so the first one, what made you go back to doing what you do, to the stand-up, to the performing? When did that window open again, where you said, "Okay, let's do this"?
I missed it, and I didn't feel like I had a creative outlet. And
Do you need one?
I do need one. I'm realizing that I do need one. And not to say that I couldn't pick a different one, but I wasn't taking or making the time to pick a different one.
To paint.
Yeah. And so when I saw people going back to doing stand-up when the clubs reopened, I mean, I guess the clubs never really closed. I mean, they did for a short period of time. But once I was vaccinated and it was going to see Jason Banks at the Funny Bone. And he is a person that's absolutely thrived during the shutdown, and just like everything that he did, it's just so wonderful to see happen to. It couldn't happen to a better person. You guys are great people, but Jason's better than all of us.
Right,
I mean,
right.
he's just such a good guy.
He's good. He's amazing.
Yeah.
We did a two-parter with him here on Whiskey Business.
He's
not too
wonderful.
long
If you get
ago.
TikTok famous, we'll do a two-parter with you.
Okay.
You'll graduate to two parts.
Yeah.
But I saw him, and Bobby Dodds hosted, and I love Bobby, and Kenny Mock middled, and seeing Kenny is one of those people for me that, like, when I see him, it automatically makes me feel happy. Like, and we only just recently realized that we started at the same time.
Kenny's coming on the podcast too.
I love Kenny. And I remember, like, when I first started, he was in the contest that I was in. And I kept thinking, I was like, that guy's so funny. And it was just like every time I would see him throughout the years, and it wasn't often, but when I did, it just felt like something about it felt like going home, you know? And so when I was at the Funny Bone and Kenny was there, and after the show, Bobby was like, when are you coming back? And Kenny was like, when are you coming back? And they were all like, when are you coming back? And I thought, maybe I will come back. I felt that energy that night, and it was like, it fed me to the point where I was like, okay,
I'm back.
You remember what a nervous wreck I was at last Real Understanding?
Yeah.
That's the first time I'd been on stage in almost 2 years. It's freaking me out.
you were so great that nobody would have ever known.
But I was freaking out. Were you freaking out the first time you went back on stage?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it was Amber Falter runs a room here in Columbus she and Dan Seabury run a night at Rambling House on Tuesday nights. Shout out Rambling House. Shout out Dan and Amber. Freaks with Beaks is what it's called. And she had me headlining. And I was like, I haven't been back on stage. And
Dive
she's
right
like,
in, baby.
I know. I was like, somebody's just going to dive in head first.
Go the deep end.
And I was a nervous wreck before it.
And how'd you feel after?
Great.
Wonderful, right?
Yeah, I had a good set. It wasn't a perfect set, but it was a good set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to go back into those. I mean, I did. I felt good, but now I'm stressing out all over again because we have the Great Debate coming up, which is a comedy show. It will be actually your podcast will drop before the Great Debate. So
okay.
Yeah.
It's the week of Ohio State, Michigan.
Right.
The
Yeah,
big
yeah.
I'm
rivalry
back on
here.
Team OSU.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Good to have you back.
You're the
Yeah.
host, right, Dino?
I'm gonna host, but I'm a nervous wreck about hosting it
Oh,
again.
man.
Yeah, you'll be great.
Yeah, because it goes back to that. Oh man, what am I going to bring new to the table? And it's been a year off, and I have this we do on a regular basis. It's in my blood. I got some rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Going back to radio was scary.
Yeah.
In the last 3 months, I was a nervous wreck about that, and
I've been carrying him along
thank
pretty
God for
well,
Hansberry.
thank God.
Thank
You can
Hansberry
tell
for picking
when
I
you're
knew
listening,
something felt
actually.
different.
picking up the slack. But that was nerve wracking to go back back into. And
Yeah.
so there are some people going, aha, I knew you'd be back. The people that said that you'll be back in a month, you'll be back in 2 weeks, you'll be back in a month, you'll be back in 3 months, and now you're back, and they're going, aha, I knew it. Called it.
I mean-
high five. She's back. Boom. Yeah.
I don't think I'm experiencing that much because I'm not booking anymore.
Okay.
You're not
And
seeing that crew.
No, I don't have a room anymore.
Right.
So, and I recently stepped down from producing the C-Bus Comedy Fest. And it has nothing to do with the people I was working with. It's just my heart wasn't in it. And I was like, I do want to go back and do stand-up, but I don't want to be in charge.
That's okay.
That was the stuff that I left that I don't want to go back to.
That's okay.
Stress to that. Stress to
Right.
being a boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I get it. My other question is for you. You swore you weren't going to get married.
Yeah.
And you talk about it in your stand-up. You talk about your stand-up in a magnificent way. But come next February?
February 5th is the actual wedding
take a look
date.
at that ring.
Show the camera there. Put it right up to the camera so we can all see.
I have another ring on top of it because I lost so much weight that it doesn't fit anymore. So this one is actually keeping it on. My
Keeping
finger.
it safe. Keeping it protected.
Some people see the other ring and like, did you get married already? No, that's
No.
just holding it on my finger.
So you got your baby daddy, and that's the way things have been. You guys obviously share a home together. And,
Yeah.
And now you've decided to...
Well, so here's how it went: is that he told me he never wanted to get married again.
He said it.
Yeah, because he's been married twice, and he
Okay.
said I don't want to. Yeah, he said I don't want to get married again, but he did want to have a family, and I was like, at first it was hard for me to accept not getting married, but I got over that because I also wanted to have a family, and it stopped being important to me, and I became like very anti-wedding. And now I kind of feel like a hypocrite because now I'm a bride and I'm, picking out cakes and
That's
stuff
okay.
like that, Yeah, because there's a lot of like really weird traditions that we keep in marriage and weddings that I don't understand why we still do them.
Oh, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can make your own way.
You know that the groom stands on the left because so that that started so that he could have his fighting arm free in case another suitor tried to steal his bride away.
You might need that though. I mean, don't
So that he
don't throw
could draw
that,
his
that
sword.
tradition
Because
out.
the door was mixed up.
That's where the door was at.
The bridesmaids all dressed the same because they all used to dress the same as the bride
Just in case.
to confuse any evil spirits who might try to place a hex
interesting.
on the bride.
Wow.
These are all things I learned on the quiz box.
Wow.
Sorry. But it made me realize like how much we do that is ridiculous and stupid and expensive for no reason. So I was very anti-wedding, and now I'm having one.
But now you're having one. But are you going to have a traditional wedding, or
No.
you're just going to
She's
go?
doing it at
you're
the
gonna-
shadow
you're
box.
gonna go your own way.
We're getting married at a bowling alley.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Alrighty. And there you're.
Great.
Yeah.
It's
Lebowski night.
Is it league night? Yeah. Who's gonna be there?
well, we wanted to get married on Groundhog Day because that's what we celebrate as our dating anniversary because we started dating sometime around Groundhog Day. It's
That's cool.
always been my favorite holiday because it's ridiculous.
Does
In the best
does
movie.
Does Fig know that mommy and daddy aren't married?
I don't think he really understands it. We tried to explain to him that we're having a wedding, and he said, well, who do I get to marry?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he said,
nice.
and I said, well, who would you want to marry? And he said, well, I want to marry you. And I
Yeah,
said,
Mom,
well,
yeah.
he actually wanted to marry Dad.
Well,
So, which is fine. I
We're
know
in open
he's.
society. It's fine.
I know they're closer. Yeah, they're very close. But yeah.
Oh, what? Hey,
Yeah. And then when I said, well, you can't marry mommy or papa, he said, well, then I want to marry Tristan, who's his cousin. And we were like, well, you can't marry your cousin.
We'll talk later. We'll
Yeah, I
talk
was like,
later. I'll explain why.
Let's just table this. For now. Yeah.
We don't live in Kentucky.
Mothers wind up being much closer to their sons, fathers to their daughters. Are you gonna have any more children?
I don't know yet.
Have you thought about that?
Probably not.
It's okay.
But as soon as we get rid of all of the baby stuff, I'm sure
You're
I'll
gonna
get
have one,
pregnant.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's not currently in the plan. Yeah. I'm on the older side for getting pregnant.
It's not that,
Yeah.
It's not that old.
Gabe's
Not these
43, so I don't.
It's not old.
Yeah.
He's not
Grandpa
old.
over there.
I'm
Just
just.
grandpa over there.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
Not you. I'm talking about when the kid gets older.
Oh yeah.
I'm just already tired, so I
Yeah,
just
I get it.
I don't
I
want to
get
be
it.
chasing a 10-year-old when I'm 47.
You say Gabe's 43. People ask me everything about having more kids. I go, are you kidding me? At 62, have more children at 60.
Stacy
What am I,
still asks
Anthony
me.
Quinn?
Yeah. I don't know. We might. We still got all the baby stuff in the basement, so that.
Oh yeah, get rid of it, then you'll get knocked up.
Yeah,
It'll be nice.
Yeah, the Hansberry method. Right?
Well, he's
No,
Catholic. so-
no. We pooped out 2, and then we decided we always wanted 3, and then we pooped out 2. We're like, and it was kind of the same thing. We're like, no, fuck no. What are we doing? Think of 3, 2.
Two's
And we
good.
stopped.
One's good too. I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got one.
Gabe was an only child, so
Yeah.
we grew
You got
up an only
siblings?
child. I do. I have a sister, but we're twins the hard way. My mom
Irish twins.
immediately
that
got
what they call
pregnant
them?
again. Is that what they call?
Yeah, I
it?
think they're called Irish twins,
Yeah.
right?
We're 16 months apart,
Right.
so
Yeah. Well, whatever.
not
Close
immediate, but yeah,
I'm
pretty
a middle
close.
child myself. Middle.
Yeah.
That explains
a lot.
it.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Explains a lot.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I want to first say thank you because we're wrapping up. This has been amazing.
This has been amazing for me. Thank you.
Was it good for you?
Yes.
Was it good for you?
It
Good
was.
for you. I've had better.
Oh,
I've had better podcasts.
I mean, I don't know if any of the other podcasts people have been on or listening, but no, I don't think I have. I mean, I hosted my own podcast, but that's different.
And you never talked about the color of your urine.
No.
On any other podcast.
No.
I'm leading. That's gonna be the. That'll be. I'm leading with
that'll
that.
be
Trust me, yeah, we dig deep. We go deep. We go into the color of urine.
That's the whiskey shot. I think that is the whiskey shot. Urine.
That's the one.
That's the one. Sorry.
all the hard work you've been doing for 37 years.
And also-
it's going to boil down to a 1 minute
Here's
clip
something
of
you
your
can,
urine
here's something
color.
you can also. This is one of the few podcasts that I've gone all the way through without smoking a cigarette.
Oh.
Thank you.
That's right. Yeah,
don't
it
have to
really
shower
helps out.
tonight.
Appreciate it.
Trying really hard not to smoke during the podcast, but when I talk, I like, and especially when the conversation gets deep, it's like, oh man, this would be a great time to light a cigarette. I really
know,
want
right?
to smoke
Yeah.
a cigarette. But
I saw you pick up the lighter. Of the
I
matches
did.
a couple of times.
The matches. I was gonna, but
Yeah.
yeah. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you.
He's going to start vaping.
You're welcome.
I probally shouldn't tell you it wouldn't have bothered me, but
No,
it would have really bothered me. It bothers everybody. You shouldn't do it.
Good answer.
But, I'm gonna light up here in a minute. But no, it was good. It's good because I was trying to be. I'm trying to be more respectful of the people that surround me.
Yeah.
And I should quit.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things I need to quit for. Right?
That's how I feel about a lot
Right?
of things too.
It's like this one goes down a little bit lower on the list. Yeah, thank you. This has been. If I didn't feel closer to you just by knowing you after this, now
I'm part of this family now.
Sis.
aren't
Family. There's the bond.
I? Uncle John.
The creepy Uncle John.
Can I borrow some money? Give us the websites of where and how people can find you or
Oh,
see
gosh.
you or do whatever.
If
Yeah.
there's something like that even exists. at the moment.
I think I let my website lapse on GoDaddy or whatever. I don't think it's up, but you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram at Nicky Wink, Nickey, like the mouse, but with an Nwink.
We're going to take some pictures before we leave, and we're going to, as the vain performers that we are, we're going to push the shit out of this one because I think there was some really, not so much because it was a good podcast, but I think there was a lot of stuff in this one that people can relate to.
Nice.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's and the fact that you can share it and open up is pretty damn cool and
Thank
powerful
you.
in its own right. You feel good about everything?
I do.
You don't know podcast remorse? We call it podcast. Whenever we record, as opposed to going live, we always say, "Do you have any podcast remorse?"
No, I did on the premise a couple of times, especially when I lost.
What
But,
are you
That's already out there on the
I would have
internet.
cut something out.
but not this time. No.
And the urine thing's staying because it was woven
Yeah,
throughout
that's
the whole
nice.
podcast. So it's going to be hard to
So
edit
I'm
out.
really not that embarrassed about
Okay,
it,
you're
honestly.
right.
It's just pee.
It's just pee. Maybe that's what we should call the title. It's just pee. It's Nicky Winkelman. It's just pee.
It's just pee.
Well, no. What was the?
I don't even know.
My vagina's a bounce house.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that
Remember
was
that one?
Sarah.
That was
Yeah.
Sarah. That was the title of her podcast.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny.
She's still in nursing school, right? She's
Yeah.
still doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did a great job on the podcast, but that's the title of the podcast. And that's what we
Vagina's
named
a
it.
bounce
My
house.
vagina's a bounce
I think her
house.
quote was, "My vagina is not a bounce house."
Right. Yeah, man, whatever.
It worked out that way, though.
Either way, so
You want me to hit some of this
I
business
want to
real
hit
quick?
some of the business.
If you're listening on
before
your
we wrap
favorite
it up.
podcasting app, thanks. And
Oh, you know what? We
subscribe.
need also Evergreen. Don't forget
All right,
Evergreen.
hold on. Oh, God.
You got to
All right.
probably cut that in the beginning. huh?
Dad. Whiskey Business is on YouTube. Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. Thanks for subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. Make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. The what do they call it? Grassroots effort.
Yeah.
Is
We
always
need more
helpful.
numbers, guys.
Yeah, build those numbers up. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and yes, thanks to our podcasting network, Evergreen.
Evergreen Podcast Network.
Evergreenpodcast.com.
Where you can find Whiskey Business and so much more.
Ohio View the World.
Yep.
What's our I just drew a blank. Our buddy, the sports
Todd Jones.
Todd
Todd
Jones.
Jones,
Todd
Todd
Jones.
Jones.
The early all access.
All Access. Yeah, he does.
Is that what it's
he
called?
does a lot
Sorry,
of things,
sorry,
yeah.
Todd.
But he's on an Evergreen. Well, a lot of us are on the Evergreen Podcast Network, and they're constantly growing and building their repertoire and A to Z. They got a new true crime podcast that just came out. That's
And a Bruce Springsteen podcast.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, you're
The
a big
boss.
boss.
we're the same family as Bruce Springsteen. But many
bad.
thanks to Evergreen for keeping us in their mix as well. I got the Whistlepig.
Roadstock Rye Whiskey, baby.
I didn't have as much whiskey.
Yeah,
as
you know
they
you
did.
did.
Turn on down to 66.
The Whistlepig
He only had two. I
Roadstock
watched them.
Rye Whiskey.
Thanks.
Only 86 proof, but apparently enough. Was our guest bottle this evening.
It's the comedy heroin. I'm
Actually, I got to be honest with you. When I tried this neat before the podcast, I enjoyed it more
with
neat,
the ice. Oh, really?
more neat than I did the ice. Actually, like ice does with whiskeys, it opened up a little too much for me. It
Fair
opened up
enough.
too many of the flavors.
Watered it down maybe a bit.
And it did water it down, but it opened up more of those things that when I would drink it neat, it was just enough of this, just enough of that.
Okay.
It was almost too much.
Fair enough.
But, I still enjoyed it. It's still good.
It's still
very,
good, yeah.
Still very sweet.
It's very flavorful. I wouldn't call this an everyday whiskey, but it's definitely something that I would try, especially if you like the funky rice.
Yeah.
Right. It's definitely that. Our guest has been the wonderfully talented, amazing, openly honest Nicky Winkelman. Yay! Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Dino.
I'm going to try to... If there's people coming, I'd like to come to the wedding in February.
That's a heavy hint.
You want to bowl with us?
I want to bowl with you.
I can be his plus one.
I want to come. I want to come. I want to see my faux daughter. Tie the knot if that's possible.
I can DJ and he can MC and John can do photos.
Yeah.
You just do live podcasts and people dance to that.
We could do that. We could do a Whiskey Business podcast at your wedding.
I don't shoot weddings, but I'll do yours.
If you want to go funky and crazy and weird, but continued success with everything. I'm going to be seeing you in the weeks and months to come as far as performing and whatnot. But thank you for being my friend and thank you for doing this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It was really, really a special one for me. I'm really, really happy about it. I mean that in a lot of ways. I do. I also want to thank, of course, on the video side, John Whitney, Weird Uncle Johnny, as far as this family affair goes.
I don't want that one to stick.
No, it won't stick. It won't stick. Just John Whitney, amazing producer in so
That's
many
all I
ways.
need is creepy or weird.
No, man. It was in comedy context.
Yeah,
so
I understand.
Everybody will believe it to be so. Greg Hansberry on the audio side. Yep. Check us out everywhere you get your podcasts. If you like this one, go back and check out our other ones. My name is Dino Tripodis, and until the next bottle, see ya.